Welcome, my friends. We're here to talk more about becoming a technology sales professional. And we're about to talk about a career which has a tremendous amount of upside, is easy to get into, and a great career if you really want to focus on sales within technology, and that's selling technical staffing. By far, getting into technical staffing of all the other technical sales professional roles, it's the most straightforward. I don't want to say it's the easiest, but it's definitely the most approachable of the four technology professions. However, it's also extremely competitive, and it is a profession that does have a high amount of turnover. However, if you're good at it and you're dedicated, then you can make a very good living at selling technical staffing. I have a personal friend of mine, and she does somewhere between $400,000 to $500,000 a year selling technical staffing. It's a great place to start if you're looking for a career, if you're interested in focusing on sales, if you're interested in information technology. I think selling technical staffing is a great way to go. And more importantly, it's a career that you can achieve in under 6 months. If you're looking to make that transition to get started as quickly as possible, I guarantee that you can get a job in technical staffing in under 6 months. So technical staffing, it's a $28 billion industry. It's got a growth rate of 7% a year. It's also an industry with a low barrier to entry. And as I said, though, it's very, very competitive. There are over 17,000 IT staffing firms in the United States. I mean, that's a ton. That's crazy. Now, mind you, some of these specialize, like there's staffing firms that specialize in healthcare information technology, and there's staffing firms that might specialize in finance, as it relates to IT. So there's a lot of different staffing firms. Many of them are niche, but it is a very, very competitive marketplace. And a common practice for companies is to bring on temporary staff for specific projects to handle a spike in workload. This is really why staffing companies exist. Companies, they ebb and flow, they grow and shrink, and everything tends to be very project-based these days. So maybe a company doesn't want to engage a consulting firm, they just want to staff up and get some work done, get a project done. They work with a staffing firm to find those resources, because it takes time and effort to find really qualified resources, especially if you're looking for folks like developers or database engineers. It takes a while to find the right folks, and staffing firms help companies to make that happen. Now, what happens is the staffing firm actually is paid a percentage of the hourly rate that's paid to that temporary resource that's working at a company, and that's how they make their profit. So a technical staffing sales professional is basically selling resources at an hourly rate for a specific duration of time. And the goal of the technical staffing sales professional is to have as many resources billing as possible. So why is this so lucrative? Well, let's say that you've got 3 clients, and each client is using 10 of your IT resources. Let's say you got 3 PMs out there, and you've got 15 developers and a couple database administrators and some other folks working on projects. So you've got a total of 30 individuals that are currently billing. And the cost of each billable resource per hour is $100. We'll just use a round number there. About $100, that's kind of what a developer tends to go for. Now, you're paying each resource $60 per hour, which is a good hourly rate for an employee. I think that's, $135, $140 a year. That leaves $40 per hour for your firm. The company you work for, they're taking $40. And what they're doing is, so then let's go ahead and look at how that affects your total compensation. So 30 resources times $40 per hour times 40 hours a week is $48,000 in gross profit per week. Now your firm, your staffing company, subtracts 20% for operating expenses. And that's things like, rent, salaries, healthcare, just general operating expenses. So minus $9,600 from that $48K, leaving $38,400. Now, a typical commission for an IT staffing sales professional, and don't hold me to this because it varies per firm, but let's call it 10%. So in the case, that's $38.40 per commission a week on top of whatever your base salary is for having 30 people billing. Well, imagine if you have 100 people billing or 200 people billing. Gets very lucrative, and it's just not that hard to do if you're working in a major market. And so you can see the more folks you add to the mix, the more companies you service, the more projects that you're providing resources for, the more you're going to make. So multiply, that 38.40 times 52 weeks, that's almost $200K in compensation. Let's say though you had 90 people billing, same rates, all of a sudden you're at $600K for 90 resources billing on top of whatever your base salary is. So you can get to $500,000 a year pretty quickly if you're ambitious in staffing. If you're out there beating the bushes, making it happen, bringing the love, building those relationships, you can make a lot of money, and that's why staffing is so competitive. But if you take the long approach and you build the core relationships you need with different companies, and you're consistent and you're always there for them, you will prosper in staffing. You do have to have a thick skin though, because you're going to get rejected a lot. You're going to deal with a lot of potential politics and competition. So you got to make sure that you've got that sort of thick skin so you can continue to be tenacious, be competitive, and get those resources billing. So IT staffing sales professionals, it's definitely, as I said, the easiest of the 4 technology sales professional roles to enter. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying selling staffing is easy. It is not easy. It is hard. However, if you're looking to get started, if you have a good, strong sales background, you can approach a staffing company, especially if you've done your homework and you're familiar with some technology. You can find work as a salesperson for a technical staffing firm. And, to get a foundation in IT is really going to give you a leg up. Because I'm going to tell you a secret, and don't get mad at me, staffing salespeople, but it's true. Most folks selling staffing have no concept of technology. They don't understand it. They don't really even effectively know what the client's asking for. They simply are just managing relationships. And they get what's called a rec, or a requirement, and they take that requirement to a recruiter. And a recruiter is the individual working at the staffing firm who's looking for skills, resources to fill those recs, those requirements. And they generally are kind of sort out. However, and this is me, I really like to take more of a consultative approach. If you are a sales professional in staffing and you really work with a client and you have a solid background in technology, I'm not talking about having a degree in technology. I'm just talking about having a solid grounding in information technology, in the applications that are being used on a regular basis, and you can really understand what the client's asking for. It's going to make your odds of success that much greater. So you can't be lazy in staffing. You have to really familiarize yourself. Now, I say have to. Lots of people are successful without doing that. Lots of people just kind of rely on being a salesperson. But I think there's a big differentiator in terms of your growth if you're just a salesperson versus a consultative salesperson who understands the needs of specific companies and can provide core resources. Because if you can do that and you have your ear to the ground and the client says, oh yeah, we're doing a new HR implementation, and you happen to see a resume of an individual who's really strong in that, maybe there's not an open job requirement. You could approach your client and say, hey, I just want to let you know, I know you're doing this kind of work. I found this guy. He's got a pretty rare skill set. I know you're working on this project. Just want to let you know I've got this person if you think that would be helpful. Again, showing value and taking a consultative approach. And the way you do that is by understanding technology. And that's going to give you a leg up right out the gate. Because the thing is, companies cycle through technical sales people in staffing all the time. You get into a company, if you haven't sold anything, let's call it in 6 months, 9 months, a year, you're not going to last. So you're looking for that leg up when you get in there, and you got to hit the ground running. Having a solid understanding of technology and understanding what the client's looking for is really going to be huge in helping you be successful. All right, so again, base salaries all over the map. Probably expect to start low. You're probably going to start around 40K. However, you can make $500,000 a year if you get your hustle on. Figure your goal in the first year is to probably make, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 in commissions as you're getting started. You go in your second year, you definitely want to be in six figures in commissions. You're going to be there for a year or two. And then as you build your relationships, you grow them, suddenly you're going to start looking at 2 and 3, depending on what market you're in. But you got to take the long game on this. You got to take the 5-year plan to get to those dollars, because people really will rely on you and want to know you're there for them, but you've got to establish those relationships. And for every relationship that you're establishing, you've got several hundred other type sales guys out there trying to establish those same kind of relationships. And it takes a while. And we're talking lots of happy hours, lots of lunches, lots of, oh, my kid plays in the same lacrosse team as yours. All that traditional sales has to happen to build those relationships so you can start getting to the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 mark a year. And again, if you're going to get in this, take the long approach. You're 5, 6 years away from being where you really want to be with the money you want to make. So I want to take a second to talk about inside sales versus outside sales, because this is a really important differentiator, because it's quite possible if you get into staffing, you're going to start on inside sales and then eventually transition to outside sales. So the inside sales professional is focused on the customer outreach, building the pipeline. The pipeline is, opportunities. How many opportunities do we have in this pipeline? And they provide support to the outside sales professional. They get a piece. So maybe if the outside salesperson gets, 7 to 10%, the inside salesperson might get like 3 to 5% of the sale. However, for the outside salesperson to be successful, they've got to have a strong inside sales resource. So they're going to assess competitors by analyzing and summarizing competitor information and trends. Who's competing with the clients you want? Who's on site? Who has relationships? Who are you up against? You got to do your homework. Setting appointments, probably the most important thing for an inside salesperson to do is set appointments for the outside sales professional. You got to identify and develop those sales opportunities. And then you got to provide like follow-up information, technical information, explanations, etc. And prepare client statements of work. This is a big one. The statements of work are really important because they help you learn what the client's looking for, and that's the money. The statement of work is going to determine how much money you make off any particular resource. And you're going to close new accounts by following up, answering telephones, emailing. You're there to be the constant factor to make sure that things are consistent and the organization's providing a good face. And if you're going to get started in staffing, in sales, it's probably going to start in inside sales and then transition to outside sales. And the outside sales professional, they're really responsible for managing those relationships. Once the meetings are set, once they get with the client, they start building those relationships. They start getting 1 or 2 bodies on the ground, billing, growing. And these tend to be more seasoned IT sales professionals. So, you can definitely get in with a smaller firm, or actually a really larger firm. You can get in and do outside sales before inside sales. But I wanted to bring this up because you may start in inside sales and then transition. It's not a bad thing. If you start on inside sales, whatever happens, don't stay there longer than 2 years. About 18 months is the right time. And around that time frame, you really want to push from going to inside sales to outside sales. And if the company you're with won't promote you, but you've been doing a good job, you have a good track record, you can find another staffing firm and say, hey, I've been doing inside sales for a year and a half. I'm ready to get into the field, and they'll probably hire you. So you want to pay your dues and do your time in inside sales first, just to learn the business, learn the terms, learn the clients, learn all the processes. Then once you're a little more seasoned, you can go in the field and start expanding, building on those relationships. And because a great deal of outside sales work is done after hours. And again, those happy hours, those building those relationships, those lunches, hey, I'll see you at the conference in Vegas, that kind of stuff. This is straight up gangster sales. And you got to be prepared if you're going to start doing outside sales that you got to put the time in, and it is not 9 to 5. It's like 8 to 8. A lot of time goes into being successful in outside sales, but so does a lot of money come back if you put your time and effort into it. All right, so that is just a quick overview of technical staffing. This is a great gig, a great place to start. And if you're thinking, I really want to take a look at getting into sales, go out right now, look for sales jobs within staffing firms. First, make a list of, if you Google for your different city, 20 top staffing firms in, Seattle, LA, Atlanta, whatever it is, you'll find those in Google. And then go on to LinkedIn and start linking in with those firms. Look for who are the leaders, the COO or the chief, or more importantly, look for the head of sales and send them a quick letter and say, hey, my name is Jane Doe. I'm recently doing X. I have this experience. I'm very motivated to get into technical staffing. I would like to find an opportunity in inside sales so I can grow with an organization. Something like that. They'll meet you for coffee. If they feel like you've got gumption, they have an opportunity, it's highly likely you're going to find a job. But the thing that these folks look for is initiative. They're looking for lots of initiative, and it really helps to reach out and start that process to them. Don't be waiting for job postings. Find a staffing firm that looks interesting to you, or probably 10 or 12 of them, and reach out to them via LinkedIn, follow up with email, reach out to the VP of sales, or if it's a smaller company, to the president or one of the other vice presidents, schedule a coffee, tell them you want to get into it. You're probably going to start inside sales. You're probably going to start around $40K a year, and you're going to bust your butt for a year and a half. You're going to make a little money extra on your commissions. Then you're going to move into an outside sales role. You're going to bust your butt some more. But after 6, 7, 8 years, you're going to be making way more, way more than the national average. And you're going to be on a path to really make the kind of money that most Americans don't if you're dedicated to making that happen. All right, so that is my sales pitch for selling technical staffing. And if you're looking again for the shortest possible path to getting a technical sales professional role, this is the one for you. All right, thanks for joining us. This kind of wraps up our overarching review of the technical sales professional roles and jobs. We've got a bunch of links in the show notes to if you want to learn more. But thank you so much for joining us.